I have the camera on a tree today. I should get a tripod. So hopefully the angle is okay. A little less shaky from when I'm holding the camera. Today I would like to talk about social media. I guess social media in general and the effect that this is having on art. I know this is a pretty widely discussed topic. Oops. Sorry, dropped. Anyhow, this is a widely discussed topic, social media itself and the effects that this is having socially on people, as something called social media would. But the effect that this is having on art and the noticeable effect is can't really be ignored. We've had forms of art as communication. They've begun as communication, letter writing, writing in general, painting. These are all the most practical forms of what we could use to express ourselves at the time when they were being used, when they were most popular. These were what we had, We wrote letters because these were things that they were like text messages per se, and then they slowly became, as time went on, a form of art unto itself. Writing itself, a form of communication that then became a form of art. Painting, that's what we had when painters would be commissioned to do huge pieces for, whatever wealthy person was paying them to do so. This is what was the most prime form available. So this was an expression of the money you had, and the itself was an expression of something. It wasn't performative. It was what you had. Sculptures. We don't use paintings or sculptures anymore. So as time has gone on, we adapt to what we have, and what we have is what we use, and that's our form. We kind of can take, because we're human beings and we're conscious of stuff, we can take a perspective outside of things and go, okay, this is that, or I guess I'm just trying to see what the best direction to point this conversation is. When we are using things such as TikTok, for instance, we're not, generally speaking, we're just kind of uploading and then thinking, well, this is what the most popular thing at the moment that we have is, and maybe somewhere down the line, once we're more removed from TikTok and social media and these sorts of things, we'll be able to go, wow, kind of observe them as we observe paintings of the past, or start to categorize them stylistically, eras of TikTok, as we already do. But the thing is with something like TikTok, well, I'm just using that as the reference. I'm not going on the typical, I like TikTok, but of course, even if you enjoy something, you can acknowledge the negatives of that thing. Something in the instance of TikTok is we've become too indulged in the entertainment value of this. It's as if when painting was the most popular form of communication, or however, not communication, but, the most popular form of expression for what you were trying to express, it's as if we were using paintings then for the most ridiculous of things. We're not utilizing things correctly. We've become too indulged in the entertainment value of these things. And they can be entertaining, things like writing and all of those sorts of things. Of course, they must be, but they have to be countered with a utilization of these things for how good they can be, how beneficial they can be for the society. Because if we don't, then these are going to slowly deride us. They're going to slowly wear away at us if we don't just wake up and use them in a more, I'll say again, beneficial way that we can be. People have, short form content can be used in such a cinematic way of expression that that you go, wow, yeah, this can't even be done in the movie or something per se. But we are wrapped up in the dances. We are wrapped up in the little blurbs and schmerbs, of things that we go, oh wow, how did this get so many likes? Well, I didn't. You liked the thing, So just as I forget what the cartoon was that talks about if you don't like something, don't go see the movie or don't read the book or don't buy the thing. If you don't like something, even hate watching or something per se is still a number that's on there. They don't look at what the intention of the watch was or whatever that might be. They just there's a number is just seen. So we need to put things onto a more corrective path of expression, because when people begin to prefer spending time watching meandering, I can understand why that term jester maxing that's completely funny to me, that's become a popular term, because that's what's happened is we just have a lot of jesters around that we become enveloped in. We're not paying attention to the poetry of things. We're watching the jester perform in front of the king, and everybody's just kind of cavemen ogling at the fire. And this is worrisome, because forms of art that are as they should be, that are productive, that are the benefit of society, are being completely ignored. And this is killing people. This is killing people's will to continue creating these arts. How are you going to want to be an author nowadays when somebody can upload a TikTok in just a moment and launch themselves into financial security in just a moment? It's hard to maintain your strength of what and your strength and what you like when you notice these, you can almost say criminal instances of reward happening. Hard work does not equal just as beneficial of an award nowadays. That is a dead mentality. That is a mentality that does not exist anymore. How much effort you put into something is not reflective of how much you get out of that thing. So it's difficult for those who are in the arts. It's also simultaneously difficult when you have an older generation that can't seem to differentiate this, and they think that the things are happening with TikTok, and they think TikTok's the new wave, and then you see them get involved in it and abandon their mode. So it's like, no. Like, that's a whole nother subject for another day, which is what is the most viable form of communication, and how those who are in that form are getting drowned out, or they're not fighting for the form that they're in. The idea of legacy media and modern media, more contemporary media on YouTube and those sorts of things, how that is overshadowing the legacy media, and those involved in the legacy media are not fighting for what they have. I guess that can kind of tie into this. So if you have an art that you're passionate about, now is the time to fight more for that art than ever. Now is the time to truly, you have to not reinvent the wheel, because the wheel is already there, but bring something new.